What is crack-a-lackin', fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Madame Valley coming at you with my certified fantabulous co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes. We're on to the awards part of our preseason podcast series. I don't know what number this will be, but we are very close to the end of our 33-part series where we do a pod on every single team, plus over-unders, one per conference, and this awards podcast. That's a lot of content. So subscribe if you haven't already. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and ratings and reviews help a lot. Written reviews along with your ratings on Apple. That means the world to us. Follow us on the socials. Join our Discord. The link to that's in the podcast and YouTube description. Also join our Discord because you can compete against Grant and I in the over-under competition. I set it up so you can input exact records, but you're just going over-under, pasting the red or the green into which teams will go over-under. So go join our Discord so that you can partake in that. And buy our merch if you'd like to help support the show. The link to that is in the podcast and YouTube description as well. Grant, how the heck are you doing?
I'm very well. You just mentioned to me this over-under competition, which excites me a great deal. Have we set the stakes? Like, when someone beats us, what do they get to host the podcast for an episode? And then do we refuse a peaceful transfer of power and just say the votes were wrong?
I'm thinking the winner amongst the listeners, and if they beat us, that if you beat both Grant and I, you can choose the subject matter, but the winner of the over-under will get to come on the podcast.
Perfect.
If that's something that they are interested in. So another reason to go join our Discord. The link, where is it, Grant?
It's in the YouTube and podcast descriptions. It's where is Discord, Dan? It's on the internet. That's something I do know. It's out there.
Can you call Apple to confirm that?
Yeah. It's like the series of tubes that make up the internet aren't working. I'm excited about that. That's a cool idea. And hopefully
we finish in the top. I just hope we finish in the top 50th percentile of submissions. Otherwise, that's a bad look.
Can I tell you something? I'm not confident. I'm not confident.
I'm so confident. I'm not confident at all.
That's great.
Before we get started, I would like to address this very quickly. The Rockets traded Kevin Porter Jr. some seconds to Oklahoma City Thunder for Victor Oladipo and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. It is, as Woj reported, a bookkeeping move. The charges against Kevin Porter Jr. were also dropped. I think the Manhattan District Attorney announced recently. My thoughts on this are, I don't think the Rockets, they should have had to live with this mistake. The contract was the contract. It was structured in the way that it was because they knew he was a wild card. The reason they were able to acquire him in the first place was because of questionable behavior. Per the report from Clutch fans, they enabled a lot of that behavior behind the scenes. And there are people in my mentions right now, and I conveyed it. I think it's cringy as shit, but I conveyed it as this is my opinion. I'm not speaking for Grant, but I didn't want to not note the transaction itself. I don't think, one, that the Rockets should have just been allowed to undo this mistake. And I believe they're saving money in the process because Oladipo and Jeremiah Robinson Earl do not make as much as Kevin Porter Jr. this season. For the Thunder, I don't know why you would want this player associated with your franchise just so you can clear some roster spots and get a second-round pick. The people that are saying he was going to get paid anyway, then he should have gotten paid by the Rockets, who gave him that contract knowing what an off-court risk he was. And I find it cringy that I don't want to see people. It's okay to criticize the team that you root for. I promise you, it is okay. We will compliment the Thunder for other things, just like we've complimented them in the past for other things moving forward. It's okay to just say, no, they shouldn't have done this. And it's not just about operating as a business. Yes, the NBA is a business, but this opportunity would not have been available to the Thunder if the intimate partner violence incident did not happen with Kevin Porter Jr. Conversely, would the Rockets have been looking to make this exact deal, if that incident didn't happen? No. And so I'm not a fan of instances as extreme as this, saying the NBA, its teams get to operate as business as usual because this is a business. No, it's okay to just say, no, this shouldn't have happened, and the Rockets should have eaten their mistake. I know per the CBA, they probably couldn't have disciplined him. They could have outright waived him, or they could have waited until the investigation by the league and themselves was complete. That's just where I land on it. I'm sure if Grant, you want to add anything to it, I would be more than happy to.
No, I think the main thing, I don't take issue with anything you said. It is cringy. It is, but the only outcome I think that wouldn't have been cringy is just waiving him, which I would have, I think that probably would have been the right decision. I don't have a lot to add other than to say I'm just glad I don't feel like we're going to need to talk or think about him for a while. And that's cool. So like I'm ready to just not have that taking up any brain cells for a while.
Yeah, and the final thing I'll just say is I just don't understand the need to defend the Thunder or the Rockets in this instance. They needed to get off his deal. No, they didn't. Then they shouldn't have offered him the contract if that was money they were worried about.
Just waive him.
And the other thing, this is real Galaxy brain, is that the Thunder deserve to be commended for facilitating his removal from the league. It was happening. It was happening anyway. And you know what? The Thunder probably had other opportunities this offseason to make these types of moves where they could have cleared up roster spots and elected to wait. So we say nice things about the Thunder all the time. This is not going to be one of them, but we are free to move on. I just didn't want it to go unnoted. How do we? You're gonna control this. How do we want to go about this? Where do we want to begin?
Am I in charge? So I think let's just start at this. We should start with MVP. Let's start at the top. And I don't know. I think it can be kind of loose because I don't know how you approach this, but the process for me was kind of, let me make a list of like 15 guys and kind of start coming up with reasons why they won't win it. And then you get down. That's because I just want to make this. Maybe it's lame. Like some of these takes and picks are a little hotter than others, but I kind of went with the approach of like, I'm trying to get this right. So I need to just pick the person that I have the fewest uncertainties about. I don't know how you approach it, but so I start with a big list and we can go through like who we ruled out and why, or we can just name our guy and then go down the list and say these three are out for this reason. This guy's out for this reason. So that's kind of how I went about it.
Did you do an actual ballot though? Like, do you have like a top 5 for that?
It's more
or you
like
just have a winner.
I got a guy in green as my winner, and then there's not a uniform number of guys I'd put down the ballot, but there's like a yellow section who are sort of like in the finalist area. So I didn't actually do a full ballot, but it's kind of like the guy and then a couple others that I think have a chance, but I'm not picking them, and then a bunch more that it's like I ruled them out. So
it's probably just best to go. We'll reveal our winners, and then I did 5. Like I have 10 guys listed for MVP, I think, because it was tough. I did rank my MVP because if your top 5 on your MVP ballot is not also your first team All NBA, there's no positions anymore, so I don't know what that point would be. So it's probably just best to work through our winners and any the cream of the crop honorable mentions that we went with. And I will say it was hard this year. I don't know why. Maybe the parity in the league contributes to parity in awards, but I factored in the 65 game minimum we have to keep in the back of our head. And so that impacted, how much of a chance was I willing to take on an Anthony Davis or a Kawhi if I was talking about all NBA teams? So that made it a little bit more challenging as well.
Yeah, that is, and we should maybe just put some of this out up front. The 65 game minimum is actually kind of it's a little looser than that to be considered for awards, because there's a way you can play 62 or 63. And then if the other 2 games are, you played at least 20 minutes, it's just like, but when I was doing this, I didn't get into the weeds too far. It's just, is this guy going to play 65 games? And if the answer was probably yeah, then I considered him. That I kept it pretty simple in that regard.
And these are who we are predicting. It's not who we think necessarily will win.
I think I did who I think's going to win it.
So you went that I went for, I guess it's at this point, that's the same thing where it's like, but our ballots aren't necessarily meant to reflect, like, I think Nikola Jokic was both of our MVPs this past year, was it not? So that's more of a mid-season thing where we're picking who we would pick, not who we think is going to win. So right now it's both who we pick and who we think is going to win. So you are correct.
I don't know. All right. That's enough preamble. I'll tell you, let's just start. I picked Jokic for MVP again. And I don't know. It's like, how much justification do we really need? Like, there's a great argument he should be trying to get his 4th in a row right now. It came down to, there is an element of team success for MVP. Like, it's undeniable. It's really hard to win MVP if your team is not top 3, top 2 in the conference. And Denver, I think, I have the fewest questions about Denver being in, team success. I think check. Jokic's centrality to that success, like, massive check, biggest check of anybody in the league, because all the numbers we know, they just aren't good when he doesn't play. So if Denver is really good, it will only be because Jokic is really good. So, that those 2 things aren't in place for a lot of other guys. He's going to have the individual production. Like, he'll just walk into 25, 10 and 9 or whatever easily. And then health. I mean, he of the best players in the league, I have the fewest questions about him staying healthy. and getting over the 65 games. So that's why he was the pick for me. It's like, it's very unsexy because I think he's fairly close to the consensus, just the best in the league and whatever. But yeah, we can talk. We'll get into more of like other considerations. But who did you have?
I'm Nikola Jokic as well, and it dovetails with a lot of what you say. I would reemphasize, I mean, despite what Calvin Booth thinks about Peyton Watson's Hall of Fame chances, the bench is not great this year. I would argue just because I know they didn't lean on Christian Brown during the regular season a ton last year. So, I mean, last year during the regular season, you had 6 guys that you trusted to log these heavy minutes. It's the same case again, only I think now once you get beyond those 6 guys, and maybe even including those 6 guys, just because Brown's only a sophomore. I know he's older, a proven winner. You're rolling the dice. And if all of those dice rolls or some of those dice rolls don't pan out, the importance of Nikola Jokic only increases. And so he wins from every angle. It's when you're trying to pick your MVP, it's who kind of is on a team that's good enough, is having like a large enough indispensable impact. And then like there has to be the narrative element of look what he's doing, how he uplifts them. And I think Nikola Jokic checks every possible box there. My only concern for picking him, and I try not to let this factor in for me, there's still going to be the voter fatigue because he won 2 in a row. It was between him and Joel Embiid really last year. And I mean, even just the Embiid, Giannis, Jokic MVP debate feels like it's never ending. And so does that hurt him? I don't think it will. I think people, what could actually, and before I throw it back to you, go through your HMs, what could actually really help him is, he's coming off a really long playoff run, even though they dominated in the playoffs, and yet he's still this good. There's no championship hangover. He's still this important. And the Nuggets don't seem to be treating this like the stuff coming out of camp. I know it's training camp and preseason and whatever, but they seem very serious about this regular season to where now they're bearing the burden of pressure where people have expectations for them. And I'm very interested to just see how Jokic responds to that, because I think that he's going to be just as spectacular as ever.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. So I'll go further down. I don't have I was going to say down the ballot. So the next like chunk, I guess there are 4 conveniently that I considered, and that I'll give you the argument like why I don't think they're on Jokic's level as consideration. So I have Giannis, but I just think Dame is going to kind of cannibalize some of that vote. I think Lillard will be really good there, and it'll be difficult to say who. I mean, I think Giannis will have more to do with the Bucks' success, but it might be like a 55-45 split or something close to that, where you have who do we credit for this? Neither of these guys were on my ballot.
I was going to say, since I have Giannis on my ballot, like maybe if we're overlap, I have Giannis too.
Yeah.
And I actually think I agree with Dame kind of cannibalizing his consideration, but I also look at it as because of the concessions the Bucks have made on defense and with some of their depth, that Giannis is so much more valuable to them on defense now than he was last year, that I think that could actually inflate his MVP case. Again, I have him too. And it's also just the Bucks are going to be really good, and they might churn out. Would they win last year? Was it 58 or 57? And it kind of just like that could happen again if health breaks right. They just might be so good. We have to take the best player from that team, and that's clearly going to be him.
Yeah, I would say he's probably my 2. He's the first guy I mentioned. I would say he's probably next on the list. I think that's a great point. He really has an opportunity to, and we'll get to this later too, like defensively prove that he can be, he's got all this extra energy because he's not tasked with so much offensive stuff. He might really pop there. I have Embiid, I don't know, I guess he's 3rd, but I have real questions about, are the Sixers going to win the 50 plus games? I think we both went under, or we didn't think they'd win quite that many. And then the health issue, he's been relatively healthy for him, but that 65 game threshold looks kind of tough to me. And the vibes are bad with the Harden Quagmire thing. So did you have Embiid on there too?
He was number 6. Just, I don't know if he's going to reach the games played threshold. And then, by the way, we both went over on the Sixers. We did.
Well, what was it? Like 40?
It was 47.5.
Okay.
I can double check really quick. It was 47.5. And I think we went with, or it was 48.5, and we went with 49.
Okay. That feels like too few wins, don't you think? Like, even if they hit 49, I mean, it'd be close, but I feel a lot better about my MVP candidate if they're over that like magical 50 game mark.
I think what's also, I could envision the East being a scenario where it's like 52 games is the 1 seed type deal.
Yeah, that's true. That could be. All right. So I don't feel good about either of these next 2 guys. I have Steph and Jayson Tatum. Curry hasn't played 65 games since 18-19. So like that.
So he's due.
That might just end it there. And then Tatum, I have written in my notes, like he will need to take a big step forward. Like I think he's, most people would say he's top 10 in terms of like where he sits in the league or somewhere around there. You really got to be like in the top 5, category, and the Celtics will have to win a ton of games. That's the other thing, is I think Boston's going to win a shitload of games. So, and he'll probably be the most significant reason for that. I like some of my omissions honestly better and think they're better players, but I don't think their teams are going to be good enough. So I'll throw it back to you there.
So I had Steph third
Okay.
because it's a gamble, but this whole thing is just a gamble. Like you said, he hasn't played in 65 games in a while, but he only needs to get to 62. But
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah.
There feels like there's a sense of urgency with the Warriors just based
Agreed.
off. I actually think the Jordan Poole move was also a bookkeeping move, but when you swap out someone that young who is so integral to your 2 timeline structure for Chris Paul, who's on this such immediate track where you're not going to have him for more than this season, maybe not even the entirety of this season. I talked with this about Sam Esfandiari, and this also swayed me towards it, is that the Warriors understand the urgency behind this window to the extent that where it feels like Bob Myers maybe wouldn't have reflipped CP3 in the middle of the season if the right trade came along, Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Kirk Lacob might. And so just the urgency, I think that leads me to believe that Steph is going to be on. They're all trying to just put what happened last season behind them. And I think what could hurt his MVP case is if they start really doing well in the minutes without him because of Chris Paul running the offense. But he is just, it's kind of shocking. I saw someone, and I don't really get in the team propaganda, but the fact that Steph has never ranked higher than like 4th in ESPN's top 100 or something like that over the past like whatever years, ever since his first title, has been kind of weird to me. He was kind of like an early favorite before he got hurt last year. He was playing so well. And so if things break right, I think he'll be top, like he'll definitely be in the top 5 or top 3, whatever. So I have him there. I have Jayson Tatum number 7. I think his case was a lot stronger before the Jrue Holiday trade.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried, are we going to see as much of a playmaking improvement or playmaking reliance on him with Jrue Holiday there, Peyton Pritchard still there? It totally could happen, but now Jrue Holiday is going to even alleviate some of the defensive burden from him. I think it's better for the Celtics in the long run. I just think when you have so much talent, Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis now, that could dilute his case a little bit, even though none of those guys are on the MVP level. So he was 7. I had Luka Doncic and Devin Booker were both in my top 5. I'm really bullish on the Devin Booker stuff. I think a lot of it's going to have to come down to no, his stat lines are not as gaudy as Luka's, or maybe even no, they could be as gaudy as Tatum's pretty easily. But he's the most critical piece of that team to making the 3-star combination. We don't have a real point guard work. He is their best passer now. I don't think I'm overlooking anybody there. And I think that we're going to see his assist total skyrocket. I think the way he can move and play without the ball is going to be important to kind of optimizing KD and Bradley Beal at points. And so just given that role and that importance and how much, one, he's improved defensively, but 2, that they're going to need to lean on him defensively this season, I think it's set up well for him to crack the top 5. And Luka's just Luka. My issue with him is just, I don't know if the Mavs are going to be good enough to where this could, and he's not going to get the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander bump where it's, your team wasn't great, but you were just so great, we're going to throw you in there. He has Kyrie. There's immediate expectations there. I feel very uncomfortable putting him in my top 5, but just some other names that I considered to round out my top 10. I have SGA at 8, Durant at 9, and just LeBron at 10. I really wanted to throw SGA further up there. Sam Presti has preached patience with this team and how they may have borrowed some wins from the future. So I question, one, whether the Thunder will win enough. And then there's just there could be some pullback for SGA too, when you want to expand the roles for Josh Giddey. You have Chet Holmgren there, maybe even expansion for Jalen Williams. Could that eat into some of how central he was to their offense?
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. So 3 guys that were the toughest omissions for me were SGA, Luka, and Booker. I think Luka will just have an MVP statistical case for sure, but we agree. Like I don't like Dallas to win, 45 games, let alone 50 necessarily. SGA, same thing. I think he could put up the exact same stats as last year, and if the Thunder don't add a bunch more wins, I don't think he's a realistic competitor. Booker, I feel the worst about. The reason I went away from him as like a serious, threat to Jokic, which I mean he is, because we're talking about 450 players and we're, limiting our conversation to like 10. So obviously he's a threat to win it. But he looked so good against Portland in the preseason bit that I watched last night. We're recording this on Tuesday.
Did you also bet on preseason basketball as well?
No, but I did feel like I needed to watch the Suns a little bit. And he comes out, Booker, and hits like 4 threes in the first quarter and is like getting steals by like fighting through posts from behind in the post and like triggering breaks. And I was like, God damn it, why did I not put this guy higher on my MVP? I think Durant is going to cannibalize some of the vote, even though I don't think Durant's going to play 65 games. I think it'll be another situation where it's like, who do we credit for this? But I agree that Booker is the one who probably deserves and will deserve the most credit. I had a couple other down ballots. I had Dame like down the ballot quite a ways. And I also had De'Aaron Fox down a little bit just because I think it's not ridiculous to throw him in there this year.
I was going to ask you, if you had to pick a player that had like the SGA-esque rise up the MVP ballot to where he could be in top 5, what were some of the names that you would think of? And De'Aaron Fox, certainly. I mean, he just made an All-NBA team, so it wouldn't come out of nowhere.
Right. It's not like some huge thing. I mean, if you're Fox stands out in that group quite a bit to me. I think Tyrese Haliburton is probably another, ironically, former teammates, is another guy that like the Pacers will not win anywhere close to enough games for him to be an MVP, but like he's someone that might get, he might get thrown like a third, a down ballot vote at some point because his numbers will be great and it'll be very clear that he's the reason the Pacers are as good as they are, however good that is. Trying to think who else I'm looking at my all NBA stuff, and most of the guys I have on third team I don't think have a realistic MVP shot.
I think in terms of the SGA question, Anthony Edwards would probably be a possible answer to that if things break right in Minnesota. I don't know if Pascal Siakam would really qualify, but like he's never finished super high on the MVP ballot. And then the other one, this is like he's been around for a minute, but Trae Young, just like
I hate that you picked him because I think kind of the same way. I'm kind of bullish on the Trae Young 23-24 season right now. So we should also say the guys that I just kind of threw out because of the games thing, who otherwise you're like, where is this? So KD, I don't think is going to play enough. Kawhi, Paul George. I actually have LeBron in that group. 65 games. That's why I put him, because the MVP ballot's only 5 names deep. So like if you're in the top 10, it's just sort of like a nod to, I would consider you. And maybe that's a better way. Who else do we need to say? AD, I think is fringe MVP good enough most of the time, but he's not going to play. Ja, Kyrie, Zion, Jimmy Butler, I think is not going to
do. What happens if the Sixers are really good? Embiid's availability is wonky, and James Harden's the driving force of it all.
There are so many hypotheticals you just listed, like layered on top of each other, that are not going to happen. That I'm not prepared to entertain that possibility. Harden as a friend. I mean, no, I'm not ready to go down that road of having to think about Harden as an MVP.
This would be like way too galaxy brain, but I was just like, do we need to talk about anyone in Cleveland?
So I have Mitchell, Mitchell's going to make an all NBA team for me. So I guess he's the one. And actually I have a second Cav on an all NBA team, not to tease it too much, but this guy's not going to be an MVP.
Also, I think it could be Darius Garland might be their best player this season. That is certainly on the table for them.
Yeah.
They have 3 guys that I think you can reasonably say, and Mobley, Garland, and Donovan Mitchell, that could be their best player this season. I don't think any other team has that type of hierarchy where it's, I guess, would you say the Suns come closest to where it would probably floor me if Bradley Beal was their best player this season? Outside the realm of, and I mean in a good way, not like, well, the Wizards have like 8 guys who could be the best players.
Right. Yeah. It's not always great if you can't identify a team's best player. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Okay. Yeah. So we both have Jokic, and we're not that far apart on any of this. Do we forget anybody? We named like probably 30 guys altogether here.
Yeah, let's just throw. If the Magic are good, Paolo Banchero.
I mean, don't give me. Can you stop like putting it on a tee for me to offend Magic fans?
Okay, what happens if the Hornets win 46 games or something? LaMelo
making the
probably sneak into that conversation. Yeah,
I think I could see him getting, because I don't know how you felt, but getting to All NBA third team, I was thinking like 40 different people at that point.
Yeah, if we literally made honorable mentions of our teams, I could have made 10 All NBA teams.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting one. I'm trying to think who else. I guess like if the Heat have the best defense in the league, maybe Bam is someone that gets finishes top 10-ish in MVP voting or something like that. Or I guess I ruled out Jimmy for games played reasons. Yeah, that's about all I got. I don't think anybody else is. We haven't really like deeply snubbed anybody here.
You want to do defensive player of the year?
Yeah. So kind of similar here. There's a lot. There's probably, I think there are really like 4 or 5 really good options here. I had to go Evan Mobley. I know you had him last year as your
We
guy.
did it. We're
I'm
consensus still. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's already spoilers. I have Mobley again.
Well, of course you do. You had him last year in his second year. You can't not pick him for his
I
third.
did not. He was not. I would have to look. I'm pretty sure he was not my preseason pick, though.
No. But by the time at the end of the year, he was your guy, right?
Oh yeah, he was my guy, but
Yeah.
I just did not expect you to pick him.
No, well, so I here's the reasons. So the other considerations for me, the serious ones, Jaren Jackson. I don't have a great argument against him winning it, except voter fatigue maybe, and he might miss time because he tends to do that. Um, I have Giannis and I have Draymond, and I have questions about both of those guys. Draymond, the game limit, he's already probably going to miss a couple, maybe with the ankle. And you know, he's getting up there. I think he slipped a little bit last year, although you hear some people had Draymond as like the best per minute defensive guy in the league last year. So he's in consideration. Who'd I say? Jackson, Giannis, Draymond. Oh, I don't know how I elevate this guy above a lot of others, but I think Nick Claxton might be really good. I think Nick Claxton is a really good defender, but I think this could be like a leap defensive year. But I don't know how you're going to credit him with like a lot of other good, really good defensive players on that team. Like
There's
Bridges
also
will probably get consideration.
part of it too is we're not at the point where people are looking only at the minutes those players are on the court. They're like, oh, well, like if the Nets are 14th in defense, how is Nick Claxton going to win Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah.
Nick Claxton might make an appearance on one of my all defense teams. I only went 5 deep, or
Okay.
I only went 3 deep on this ballot, but no, I went 5 deep. So I have Evan Mobley at 1. I have Draymond at 2. Again, I'm really buying into the rebirth of the Warriors, and I do think that he had a case as the best permanent defender last year. Jaren Jackson Jr. was just overwhelming, and Evan Mobley played so many minutes. My case for Evan Mobley, by the way, I think a lot of people will say, well, he's playing with Jared Allen. Here's the thing. He's kind of this role is different, but when you're looking at the rim stuff, where Giannis ends up contesting more shots at the rim than you think, it's the same for Evan Mobley, who I think was in like the top 5 or whatever of shots contest because he played so much. And then he differentiates from Giannis, where Giannis is sort of this chaos creator away from the ball. I think Evan Mobley can do that. He's more of the guy where it's like, no, you got to go check these other people. And so I'm not saying there's more value in that one way or the other, but to do those, like it's a little bit easier to be when there's another big on the court. I'm really not trying to devalue Giannis here. I think Giannis is no worse than the third best player alive right now. I just think Evan Mobley's defense, like if you're having to check specific assignments and you're not the primary rim protector, it could be harder to make an impact as a rim protector. And I know a lot of that is probably Evan Mobley's going to get minutes as the primary big more so than Giannis. That's going to be part of this value too. I will say when we get to all defense, that's the one change without positions that will benefit big men, which I think is fair because guards are going to rule the day probably in the all NBA stuff. So that's my case for Mobley and I'm trying to get out in front of how people will discredit him. He also just might be the best defender on the league's best defense. And we don't have to overthink, like it's okay to go that route. I mean, you get to a point where, when it's done by so much committee, but when you're the best defense and 3 of the players in your most used lineup are borderline liabilities, then there starts to be something to, if that's the best defensive player, it matters. I already mentioned Draymond. Giannis, again, I think for the Bucks to be really good and maintain their level of top 10 defensive type, it's going to come down to him more than Brook Lopez without Jrue Holiday there. And I just think he's fully capable of doing that. And then my 2, I think you mentioned them already, that I had as like my 5 mentions, Bam Adebayo and Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't know that part of me just doesn't trust the Heat defensively a little bit. We saw some pullback last year, and because Bam's not that traditional rim protector, I wonder if that hurts his case a little bit. I don't know what to do with Jaren Jackson Jr. The games played stuff or total minutes played, I feel like he could eventually lose ground to guys that are just on the court more, even if he reaches the games played threshold. But he could certainly win it again. I've also wondered, I believe Marcus Smart's a defensive upgrade over Dillon Brooks, just because positionally, even if you think Dillon Brooks is just that better one-on-one guy. And does that dilute his case at all? Because Dillon Brooks was never in the conversation as DPOY, even when he was doing the all defense. So the Grizzlies are good on defense. Is it, well, he has Steven Adams and now Marcus Smart. So maybe I was overthinking that element of it. too. And I couldn't get to Nick Claxton for Defensive Player of the Year, but I'm a Nick Claxton sicko, so I appreciate you
I mean,
mentioning him.
I think I have him like a loose 5th, which is, the guy that I have like 12th is probably pretty close. But like the Jackson thing is interesting because I think Memphis is going to be very, very good, at least certainly to start the year on defense, because you're not going to
games, you mean?
Yeah, the first 25-ish games, give or take. I'm not sure why. And because like if Adams is healthy and you got Smart and like that defense should be really good, and there might just be, I don't think the narrative gets like calcified quite that early, but I think he'll have a lot of very early momentum. Not that he wasn't going to otherwise, but a couple other guys I thought about. I think Brook Lopez deserves a mention. Anthony Davis, obviously. Walker Kessler, I think, deserves a mention here. I'm trying, like OG probably.
You need to sell me on. Is it just like it's the Brook Lopez case of just like look at that rim protection? It's
100%. That is all it is. Like he was an elite rim protector as a rookie, and I think he can just be a little bit better in space. And the thing is, I don't know how much it's gonna like Utah just probably won't have a defense that's good enough to produce a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in a serious way. I'm just throwing. We've mentioned like 15 guys.
Is there? And I apologize if I missed the name that you said. If you had to pick a predominantly perimeter defender that could win DPOY this year, who would you throw? And I mean, Evan Mobley counts, so let's exclude him.
Well, then that's easy. I think there's a couple. I think like OG is someone. I don't know if he's a perimeter defender, even though he's like 6'9".
He's 5 positions, which I think is that counts.
Perimeter is a position that you can defend, so he's in there. I'm trying to think who else. The littler guards like Holiday, Caruso, I don't think that's realistically going to happen. Mikal Bridges, maybe, but I feel like his offensive role is a little too big to get, serious consideration. Who am I forgetting besides after OG as a perimeter guy?
Do you think this might be a little too much, but like Jaden McDaniels, can he get in there, or is having Dan Edwards and Rudy Gobert too much?
No, I could see that. I think that's a good one. I think I had one more that now I can't remember who it was.
So here's something I wanted. I'll wait until we get to something because it's not going to be this. So I'll save it. But yeah, the perimeter one's tough because it's like Jrue Holiday, Derek White, could Herb Jones?
That's who it was. Yeah, Derek White.
Could Herb Jones get in there?
Maybe. I mean, he kind of. Do you feel like, fair or not? I think the evaluation of his second year would be one of like, most people think it was disappointing, right? A little bit for Herb Jones because he was such a as a rookie, and they're like, oh, the Pelicans got this guy, way later in the draft than you should be able to get, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. And then he was kind of similar last year, but just like didn't really improve that much offensively. And now maybe it's time for him to really pop and it'll catch people unawares. I don't know. We've cannibalized a lot of our all defensive team talk.
Well, that was the first teams of all NBA and all defense, and even rookie. Like when you're, it just the one name, and I can't remember if you mentioned him, but I just couldn't get there with the games played, and he is the guy that I think could upend everything we just said, even more than like Anthony Davis.
For sure. Yeah.
Feels like the guy that could just upend all of this.
If he plays 65 games, I think he probably finishes no lower than third in voting. Would you agree? Like, I think that's really where he is.
I can't get there.
He's not going to play 65 games.
He hasn't played. And so I guess the equivalent, the pandemic season, he played 62. So that would be the equivalent of 65. But like otherwise, he hasn't even if you're prorating in 2020, 2021, he has not gotten to 65 since 2017, 2018, the equivalent. And so it's happened once since then. That's just where I'm at.
Yep. No, I think that's, again, like, it's not a question of ability. It's availability.
You want to do rookie of the year just because I feel like that'll be quick.
I have that next. So I really think Brandon Miller is getting. I mean, like, what do we need to talk about here? Is it Wemby or the field? If you had to pick Wembanyama versus the field, who would you pick?
Look, the field is always the safer pick, but I'm just looking at like who is the guy that you think is going to have the chance to have, like, maybe Wemby's going to have the opportunity in so many different facets of the game to have the impact. Maybe he's bad. He will not be, but just maybe he is. Who else is going to have the same scale of opportunity aside from Scoot Henderson? Because Chet Holmgren should be one of the 3 best rookies, but like his offensive responsibility isn't going to be the same. Even his defensive responsibility, yes, he's important to the rebounding, the rim protection. But when you look at who is in front of him, like SGA had a bounce back year, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams. I mean, Poku, Usman Jang. Like,
talk about it. No, that's a great point. It's not even, well, you probably saw this putting the rookie teams together. It's like there's the three guys. There's Wemby, Scoot, and Chet that are clearly, and Chet. I mean, it's really Wemby and Scoot if you're talking about just opportunity to get tons of numbers. Chet, I think, is easily in that group of three in terms of like, well, he has a shot, but he's not going to have nearly as big a role. Certainly, Scoot probably in terms of like who's tasked with doing the most, he probably is going to have to do more than Wembanyama.
Offensively, for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe just by virtue of his position defensively, but if he's playing with Tybal and Sharp, they probably move him around. I was going to ask you this, and it's putting you on the spot. Who is then, like, if you want to include Holmgren, whatever, like, who is the rookie that's going to have that next biggest opportunity, like the biggest role, like to where they could not just minutes played, but like where we're talking about Andrew Nembhard last year, who should have made an all-rookie team, but where it's like he will also have that role where the stats go along with it. Like Andrew Nembhard's role was not stats based. I don't know that I have an answer. I just don't know if it's a good one.
I wonder if we're going to have the same guy. But so, I mean, I kind of ruled out both of the Thompsons just because I think Ausar might start. I mean, he's been starting over Jaden Ivey in preseason, and I don't know how much you read into that, but like he's going to have a defensive highlight reel a mile long, and then I don't know what else is going to happen. Like the offense is a real question mark. I think Amin is kind of the same way, but he's behind some other young guys, so that's hard. I think Brandon Miller probably should get a lot of reps, but I don't think either of us are in love with him. Is it Keontae George? Is that who you're going to say?
That was the guy because, and I think it's live now. So the look ahead with the Jazz, Tony Jones came out and said he would not be, I think he said he would start him opening night, but he thinks that before long, Keontae George will be starting. And that's just, I mean, he's not going to, I wouldn't pick him to beat Holmgren, Wemby, or Scoot,
no.
Which, by the way, should we just, our order, I'm going to guess your order is the same as mine. Wemby, Scoot, Holmgren.
Yeah. And I would, by the way, take Wemby over the field. I think I'm
prepared to do it, but it's not the actual smart move. The smart move is taking the field, but we are smitten. Yeah. And I think, look, I know I keep referencing this, but we came away, you and I, from his worst game in Summer League thinking that he was going to be one of the best players we've ever seen.
I love Scoot. I think Scoot's going to be really good. And Holmgren looked awesome when I've seen him in preseason. So like those two are both, Scoot is going to turn the ball over a ton. I think just because he's playing with a bunch of young guys a lot and he's just being asked to do quite a bit. So he might not have a great statistical season. I still think he's going to get some counting numbers and he's going to have flashes where it's pretty undeniable that he's going to be just a great lead guard for a long time. But Wemby is just, every game there's like 5 things that it's just no one else does. And we're just scratching the surface. Like, do we really need to, how many calories do we need to burn talking about how great Wembanyama is going to be? Is that necessary?
Well, so I want to see your opinion on this. I just had to do an article where I had to predict his complete stat line.
Oh, wow.
Would you like to see what I came up with? And again, so a lot of this comes down to how are they going to use him? How many minutes is he going to play? This is where I ended up with. We'll go stat by stat, and you can tell me if you think it's too high, too low, whatever. So I have him at 32.6 minutes a game.
I was hoping that was going to be points per game until you said all of it. Okay, I would go. That's a good over under, is what I'd say. That feels about right.
Now, and when it comes to his scoring, I want to point out that over the past 10 years, or 3 players in their age 20 season or younger have averaged more than 20 points. So it's not that common, but it's Luka, Zion, and Paolo Banchero. With that said, I have Victor Wembanyama at 20.9 points per game.
No problem with that.
And on 53.2% 2-point shooting.
Okay.
31.4% 3-point shooting and 73.9% free throw shooting. I think the 2-point shooting has the biggest, because I'd be a little bit surprised if he's super efficient from 3. Yeah. But like if they use him a little bit more as a play finisher, I could see that number going up. But based off what I've seen from preseason, they're going to give him the runway to experiment. And so I think that ends up bringing some of the shots he's going to take inherently will drive his 2-point percentage down, would be my point.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I just envision him getting 4 dunks a game in transition or on offensive rebounds or whatever. So it's just, you could take 4 more bad twos and you're still shooting 50% on your twos. So I think if anything, the 2-point percentage seems a little low.
Okay.
But that feels about right. And I do like that you went low 30s on his 3-pointers, because he's going to take some bad ones. And like, that's just, it's that I don't think is going to quite be there yet. So I like that. Did you do rebounds and blocks and stuff?
Oh yeah. I did rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals. So rebounds, this was tough for me. We know he has like a 90-foot standing reach and that you don't need to be super strong to grab rebounds. However, and I know he averaged double digits with the Metropolitans, 92. In the preseason, he was under 8 per 36. And I do think the way they're going to use him defensively, where he's not the primary big, teams will look to pull him out of those low spots. And so unless the Spurs are just committed to leaving him there, or maybe they play zone or something, I went with 8.4 rebounds per game.
I think that if I might go under, if I had to go over under, because it is going to be a little bit more of a Jaren Jackson, like Miles Turner type of thing, where he's going to be away from the basket like kind of a lot on both ends, I think, potentially, and it's just the opportunities may not be there. But yeah, I like that. What about blocks and steals? That's kind of the most interesting part.
Let me do the assist really quick. I went over under 3.7. I think he has the ball in his hands enough.
Wow.
And there'll be turnovers, but the Spurs they have Trae Jones as like your creator, and then it's all right, well, let's try Jeremy Sohan. Maybe we play Devontae Graham. We'll give Devin Vassell some ball reps.
I think I'd go under, only because and like I think he also, among the awesome things he does every game we see him, is like there's always a pass or two that he's on the move and he quickly finds someone. Like it's a little like tic-tac-toe, like short passes around the basket. So like I think potentially he could be a really good passer. 3.7 is a lot for a big guy, but he's also just maybe like a small forward. We don't know it yet. So I don't know.
Steals was tough because he doesn't get a lot of them. I think because when you're someone who's going to be used in the way of, okay, well, you're protecting the rim or looking for blocks. And then I don't know, he doesn't seem super aggressive looking for those on the ball. And I don't think the Spurs are going to have him party crashing passing lanes. I think it's going to be, someone's driving, their back is turned to the 3-point line. They're throwing a kick out, but they forgot that Wembanyama has this huge wingspan. He grabs it, or he just reaches in and pokes. So I went with 1.1 steals.
Okay, I could see that. I do think you're right. Like he's going to have steals where it's guys just not being accustomed to having to throw a pass like even further outside or over, or like he's just going to get steals that no one else has ever gotten. So he'll like bank a bunch of those because guys are unready. Blocks. You have to have gone over 2.5.
Oh, I did. But here, so I went with, before you save it too, I went with 3.2.
Okay.
Now, here's every rookie in league history who has hit 3 or more. You had Sean Bradley hit 3, as did Dikembe Mutombo. Sean Bradley did it, by the way, in only 28.3 minutes per game. Alonzo Mourning and Shaq had 3.5. David Robinson has the NBA record at 3.9. I don't think Wemby's going to get to 3.9. David Robinson averaged like 39 minutes per game or his rookie year, or it was 37, whatever it was. And then even Shaq, he played more than I think Wemby will. He was closer to, I think was at 37.9 minutes. Mutombo was at 38.3. But I just look at Wemby and I'm like, none of the guys I just mentioned could block jumpers the way that Wemby, and even just these mid-range jumpers from the corner off of inbounds or these floater shots that they'll come in. It would, if I had to pick the over or the under on this, I would just take the over, because I've never seen anybody like him before. But I also wonder, okay, do we need to pull it back here? He's never gone through an 82-game season. How many minutes will the Spurs play him? Part of me thinks I went too high, but I'm excited.
I think if there's one stat that you sort of, how about this? I think the block stat is the one where he is most likely to do something statistically that we all have to look at each other and say, we need to reevaluate what good defense is now, because he just averaged 4.9 blocks per game as a rookie, or so, that. I think, he's not going to average 30 points. He's not going to average 19 boards, but like he might block 5 shots a game. Like he's going to get 2 like by accident, basically, because he just happens to be there and like bats a floater from 12 feet away or something. So yeah, I love the block thing. You know what this is revealing to me is we didn't mention him as like a down ballot defensive player of the year candidate, and that's really stupid. So we should have mentioned him.
That's what I was saving. Because
Okay.
I said I thought DPOY because the Spurs are going to be awful on defense, probably. Yeah. Could he make an all defense team though? And so I was going to give you the rookies that have made all defense.
Okay.
Which is Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Manute Bol, Hakeem, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And so it's just like, that's it. That on record is the only, since I think all defensive teams are made, those are the only rookies who have made it. The oldest rookie of the bunch, or youngest, I'm sorry, was Tim Duncan. That was his age 21 season. This will be Wemby's 19 now. It's his age 20 season. He turns 20 in January. It's an awful lot to ask for him to get there. And I don't know that the Spurs, one, will be good enough defensively for him to get the shine, even if he's on the floor. Maybe they are. And then two, I'm not saying this will happen. I want to reiterate that there could still be some late season shenanigans in San Antonio. Like they telegraphed that they're not operating on with any sort of urgency.
I just changed my first team all defense, by the way, while you were talking. It'll be a big surprise what I did. All right.
What next award do you want to take us to?
6-man. This one's hard. So my green, my pick is Boston guy. So I guess I'm taking 2 for 1 here. It's either Derek White or it's Jrue Holiday, whoever doesn't start. If Al Horford is the one.
Is there a possibility Jrue Holiday doesn't start?
They did that in the first preseason game. To be honest, I haven't read up enough to see what the chatter has been, but that is, at least as of, a few days ago, like that was on the table as a consideration. I think that would be the wrong decision to bring Holiday off the bench. I think Derek White is just like the no-brainer for that. And if Derek White comes off the bench as the Celtics 6-man, I think he wins 6-man of the year, and I'm like not concerned about it. So maybe I should just say Derek White, assuming Holiday is going to start. But I think, Boston's going to win a ton of games, in my opinion. And I think whoever is their 6-man is just going to be a really good, safe consideration. So I'll pick Derek White if I have to pick somebody.
Well, you do, because this is a predictions. Oh, for Boston coming off the bench. I thought you meant like if I have to pick a 6-man of the year, I'll pick.
Well, I was trying to get away with Boston guy, but if you're going to really hold my feet to the fire, I guess I'll go Derek White.
Before you get further in your round, I went with Derek White as well.
Okay.
And it might be, I feel like we need to change the way we evaluate 6-man of the year. If you are a bench player, but you wind up with a bunch of starts because there were injuries, isn't that part of the 6-man rule?
I don't have a problem with the guy that eventually starts a bunch of games. There's a criteria in place, right? You've got to start you got to come off the bench in a certain percentage of games to qualify.
If you start 50, enough, if it's like more than 50%, fine. But if it's, you need to come off the bench in like 80% of your games, like, well, part of being a 6th man is to fill in when the 5th man cannot go. Yeah. And there's also more value in, well, if you can come in and it's, Kristaps Porzingis is injured, but we can still start a guard in Derek White. Like there's value in that. Yeah. So he is my one. I think he should probably just be the favorite to win it now based on the structure of Boston. It was very hard to come up with the rest of my ballot. So I have my top 3 I rounded out with, and then I have a bunch of names, and I'm sure you do, so I'll wait for your bunches. But my top other 3 were Malik Monk in Sacramento. I still think he plays a bunch of minutes. The chemistry with Sabonis is great. He was good last year. And then number 3 is Josh Hart for me.
Oh, I like that one. I didn't go as deep down the ballot on this one. I like both of those. I also had Monk on my short list. I have Quickly there too, again, just because, what was he, 2nd last year? And a lot of people thought he should have won it. I also have Brogdon just because I assume wherever he goes, he's not going to start. If he stays in Portland for any length of time, forget all this. Chris Paul? We talk about Chris Paul?
He's on my list as well. Yeah.
That feels too obvious. But that's as much as I got. So Monk, Brogdon, Paul, Quickly, and then Derek White as like my easy, it feels like the quote unquote easy pick.
Here are some other names I have. I have Kyle Anderson, Norman Powell. I have Christian Brown. Feels like a good sneaky one, but is this like, are we Bones Highlanding in this? Where it's like we're too high on him too soon. I don't know if this guy will play in enough games, but Bogdan Bogdanovic is a good one. I think Gary Trent Jr. could do it. And here's the one that I'm bullish on. And if I thought he wasn't going to start, you hate him.
I hate him.
Yeah. Jalen Suggs.
Who do I hate?
Jalen Suggs.
You know what's really bad is that's who I was gonna guess.
Grant does not hate Jalen Suggs, by the way. Just an FYI. That's not.
No, I don't hate Jalen Suggs. I just say the Magic guards are bad all the time, and he's a Magic guard, so but I don't hate him for it.
So I'm pretty bullish on him. I feel like he should start. Maybe they go the Gary Harris route or something else there. But if he's coming off the bench, will he have the traditional scoring metrics? But looking at the defensive impact he has, his set shooting turned a corner last year, and then he will be, I would think, if he's defending as well as he did last year, in some high stakes closing units, and that would definitely drum up his 6th man of the year case.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You know what? I don't hate that pick. How about that?
That was pretty quick though. It's like Derek White's award to lose. You could fill out, you could tell me so many different orders of this award though, and I'd be like, yeah, sure. I'm not going to argue. Mm-hmm. People might get mad for us who didn't even mention. You tell me who you want to win it, and I'll just believe you. That's fine.
Yeah, right. I'm very excited for most improved player. Do you want to try to guess why? Putting you on the spot.
Oh my! You're not picking Jonathan Kuminga, are you?
No, but he is on my list. Okay. You have to put him on the list. Have you seen this preseason stuff? Like he's not
on my list, and also I tend to think that working from such a god awful baseline should not.
Well, I mean, still okay. So you're gonna hate this. You're gonna hate my actual pick even more. For so many reasons, because you're an anti-second year guy, which is a defensible position to take. Because here's the thing. Here's what you're not taking into account. I'm going to tell you why this anti-second year take is.
Oh no!
Not here we go.
Orlando Magic fans, get ready to be angry.
Yeah, you can just I don't know how long I'm going to go on this, but you can hit the 30-second skip like a handful of times if you want to. The most improved player this year, Dan, is going to be Jalen Williams for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I know that might sound strange because I've already decided that he is more God than man, and it's hard to improve from that level. But I'm convinced, maybe if you've listened to this at all, I'm convinced that Jalen Williams is going to be really, really good. And I think you're going to see a huge jump statistically this year because we saw it in the second half of last year, where he went to 18, 5 and 4 and with a 50, 40, 80 something split. He just was really great for the second half of last year after his eye was healed and he could see the basket when he shot the ball. So I'm just imagining the question you have to ask yourself is, what can Jalen Williams do with 2 eyes? And the answer is the most improved player, pretty easily. That is my pick. That really is my pick. Because there's so many, there's more than any other award. This is just I don't know, pick a bunch of second year guys, pick a bunch of third year guys. There's just there's so many guys I think will just get better. I also hate some of the ones that are high odds guys, by the way. We can get to that. But yeah, it's Jalen for me. I imagine we share a lot of the further down ballot guys. And I will not be offended if you don't have him on your list at all, because I know your stance on most improved. So
shocker, I do not have a second year player on my list.
Okay.
So yeah, I just let's say I am willing to include a second year player. What is the pathway to his role meaningfully expanding this year when you have Shai and Giddey and Holmgren? They did draft Case and Wallace. They brought over Micic. They still have Lou Dort, who they would like to do less on offense, but he's still going to eat up minutes. I think they're going to view Usman Jang. And we make jokes about Poku, but I think they view Usman Jang as a real core piece here. I think he might have to learn how to sort of not reinvent, but play a little bit differently this year rather than just looking at all this extra usage.
I think the case is, you're not wrong. Chet is suddenly there and you've got to feed Chet, and SGA is high usage and all. And Giddey probably needs to have the ball a lot to just be the best use of Giddey is not as a spot up threat. That's pretty clear. So I think the case is just that Williams, the way I describe him a lot is kind of dumbfounded is what's he bad at? I just asked what is he not good at already? And it's kind of hard to come up with anything. So I think if the idea is, well, he's going to have to sort of get in where he fits in and find ways to contribute. If that's as a secondary playmaker, because Micic isn't as can't hold up defensively and isn't going to be a good enough shot creator, maybe he's on the ball a little more as a true secondary creator. I think defensively he has the frame and the ability to be really good. I think he's going to be a super efficient offensive player. I think he's going to I just think he's going to be able, I don't know, like, I think he walks on water. So, like, I think he's going to figure out how to win most improved, I guess is my take. So, sorry if that's not going to include enough stats for you. Yeah, that it's hard to be there, but sometimes you got to follow your heart. It's hard to make a truly rational case, but what would you, so if he finishes his second year averaging like say 19 on, well above league average true shooting, and is, not an all defense level guy, but is a plus defender that can guard, 2 through 4, certainly, maybe 1 through 4. I mean, that's improvement. That's pretty darn good for a second year guy. But I take the point of like, well, he should get better. So
you've picked the right player in the sense that I'd be more open to than most second year players, Paolo Banchero winning the award because he's working from such a high baseline.
Right.
And it's the same for Jalen Williams. And I think it was the thing with De'Aaron Fox, who I actually picked, I believe, to win most improved when he was a sophomore. And that was when I kind of changed my stance where is that really fair? I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm trying to be a little bit consistent. So I will not pick a second year player. That's where I'm at.
You're trying to be rational, which I respect. I just can't get on board.
If you had to pick a second year player, you picked one of the correct 2.
Okay. Thanks for making me feel better about it. You didn't have to do that. You could have just said you're an idiot and you're biased and we can move on. Who's your pick, by the way?
I honestly thought you were just going to be like, your case was, see, he went to Santa Clara. And
no, I mean, that helps, but.
So my pick is Evan Mobley.
I think
we've already seen it defensively. And is this the year that he gets stronger on the glass? Maybe against certain matchups? Is this the year he does more offensively? It could be tough to imagine him doing more offensively when you have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. But Ricky Rubio's not there right now as he's dealing with his mental health. And they were already working in just like, oh, he's going to lead the break here. We're going to run some stuff at the elbows for him, or he's going to run it from the top. I think we could see more. I think we'll see at the very least more of his outside the restricted area expansion, where I don't know if he's going to get all these post-ups, but like we'll see more. He's operating going downhill and going to throw up some floaters, or maybe we'll see some more face-ups. Maybe they sprinkle in some more three-point volume as well. I think it's going to click offensively for him, even if it's a matter of, oh, he's going to take some of those fadeaways or his hook shots fall at a clip. And so if this is someone who at the end of the season is averaging, I don't know, 20 plus points, 4 plus assists per game, I'm just not ruling that out. And he was at last year 16 points, 2.8 assists per game. So maybe even I'm selling him short on the passing. I also had this discussion with Justin Rowan, who I'm a little bit higher on Mobley, not than Justin long-term, but I already think that he's a transcendent passer that just hasn't been unlocked yet. And so I'm going to take the risk there. My other 2, I came very close to picking both these guys to win it, by the way. Devin Vassell, I'm wondering how much better he'll actually be than his 40-something game sample size last year. And then also the Wemby of it all.
Yeah.
How does that impact his usage? And then Franz Wagner. I've also wondered, okay, is there going to be opportunity for him to expand his game? They kind of might need him to if they want to be competitive. But if they're fully invested in development and they want to give Anthony Black a ton of reps on the ball, I think that could harm his case a little bit. But those are my top 3. I also did 2 that I mentioned, and one I mentioned him because I find it hard to believe that he'll win. I don't know what Anthony Edwards needs to do after having a fringe All-NBA season to do it, but I think nationally he'll get a lot of love, and maybe he'll deserve it. Maybe it's the passing and the defense just improved by so much. And then he's technically a second-year player, so maybe you'll appreciate this. But Cade Cunningham could be someone that definitely enters this conversation.
Yeah, I was going to say about Mobley before I asked you about Cade. Don't you think it's really, he may not need it, but I think it is helpful for Mobley that the most recent memory a lot of people have of him has more to do with what he couldn't do,
right?
Like with what his weaknesses were than what his strengths were. That playoff series, just like, oh, he can't finish over, contests, and he's not finding the guy. He's just like, his role stats were absurdly bad in terms of a points per play value. So like, I don't know, like he's just going to be better. But I think the fact that everybody is kind of not down on him, but we've talked about it a lot of like what he really did kind of fail. And it's not all on him. The Knicks played it right and the Cavs had limitations, but I think it helps that like people might view him as like, if he does just showcase like an incredible passing package this year because they have better spacing partly. And if he finishes better over, tough contests or is just a better short roller, like everybody will think like, oh my God, the strides he's made. He addressed every weakness he had. I think like narratively that really plays well for him. But so a couple others that I had. Oh wait, tell me about Cade, because like I saw Cade really high up on the odds. I think he's like third or something. And all these
Is
guys
he?
that have
Oh
the
my God.
highest odds seem crazy to me. Because I just don't people agree that Cade already proved that he's like he's like, how much better does Cade have to get? Do
The
you know what I mean?
efficiency from the perimeter
Yeah.
would be a big deal. And then Kenny
Translate
Shoulder
the
a little
shot
bit more
form into made
defensively
shots,
for
basically.
them. Yeah. So there's that. There's Kenny Shoulder heavy defensive workload. And I think the other thing, depending on how they run their rotations, how well does he just fit into these dual big lineups that they're still going to run, even though it won't be Wiseman Bagley anymore? And how well does he fit? Like if they're playing Jaden Ivey and Ausar Thompson with him at the same time, how well does he do to elevate those lineups or play off those guys? And so I think his strongest case would be an efficiency bump, and we see like a diversification of his offensive portfolio.
Yeah, I think that that makes more sense than I was giving it credit for. I think like, can you imagine him winning it and everybody being like, yeah, no shit, he was the first pick and he just proved he's really good. He got a lot better. Like I could see that shaking out. A couple other guys, and all of these guys kind of fall into, I don't know how much better they're actually going to be, but I think their numbers will probably be a lot better. And sometimes if you're trying to predict who's going to win most improved, that's a good way to start. I think Austin Reeves, like, I don't think he's going to get a ton better, but he's just going to have a bigger role, and he's earned it. I think Kuminga is going to have much better numbers. I don't know how much better he's actually going to be. He's not going to win it. I think Alperen Sengun is kind of that way too. I think his numbers could be a lot better. Who else am I missing? What about Scotty Barnes? What if Scotty Barnes has the year 3 jump that everyone expected in year 2, and we're just finally gratified?
He could. I just don't think the circumstances are set up for him to succeed. I'm interested that you said Alperen Sengun, because I just don't think the Rockets are invested in him to that degree to where he would actually. I'm not even trying to be like an a-hole there.
I just think, like, I've always loved how intuitive he is offensively, and I just hope that now that they have Van Fleet as a point guard and maybe the other young guys just get better. He strikes me as the type of offensive player that really benefits from being surrounded by very good offensive players because of his passing and his vision and how he sees the game. And maybe that's as much of the argument as anything is Sengun will look better as the guys around him get better. And maybe that's where the numbers come from. Do you know who the top 2 most improved candidates are in terms of overall odds right now? Neither of them make any sense to me.
I'm going to say, was Anthony Edwards one of them?
No. But so it's Mikal Bridges is 1 on the one I'm looking at, and Tyrese Maxey is 2.
Tyrese Maxey, to have him as like one of the 2 odds on favorites is a little bit weird, but if you trade James Harden for not a star,
right,
that's certainly like he might have that juice.
The path for him is that's exactly what happens, and he averages like 25 and 8 and is just a different type of player. So I get it, but like everyone agrees Tyrese Maxey is already really good, right? And he's like, that seems, and Bridges also, everyone agrees. If Bridges was going to win it, he should have won it last year. Or did he win it last year? I can't remember. Who won most improved?
Larry Markkinen won it last year. Right. I actually thought it should have been SGA. It's just, I think you could look at it and say, okay, if he maintains that type of high usage star turn for an entire year,
right?
I get it, but it's just like, how do you? It's so tough. It's the Anthony Edwards case, just maybe in miniature, where it's how do you like what is the and maybe he just if he's averaging 30 points a game, then sure, and dishing out 5 assists or whatever. But yeah, that's interesting that they're. And you know who else I wanted to consider for this award? I just didn't think that he's going to get the offensive opportunity. Jaden McDaniels feels like could be a sneaky candidate here, but I might bet on him before I'd bet on Anthony Edwards to win most improved.
Just for the record, as we're looking down these odds, I think Jalen Williams is like 11th or 12th. He's right behind Paolo Banchero.
Why don't you put your money where your belief is?
Those are good odds. Maybe I should. This is a wild list. Just looking down the guys with the Anthony Edwards does appear though. By the way, okay, that's enough on most improved. I think. Why don't you tell me your coach of the year? Did you pick one or?
Did I pick a coach?
You have like 56 you're going to mention.
I have 15 or 16 names jotted down. I'm not going to go through them all. I'll tell you who I have winning. And this might be counterintuitive to, well, no, it's not counterintuitive. I have Quinn Snyder as my coach of the year.
He's on
I think he's going to give the Hawks a bump. I think that the bones of this team are better than they showed last year, and that a lot of the controversy behind the scenes overshadowed that. I would expect the Trae Young, DeJounte Murray fit to be cleaner. I think the minutes without Trae Young and DeJounte Murray playing will be better, in part because I think Quinn Snyder will be more creative with his rotations. And I think you could see just developmental bumps from players that improve this team, where it's them leaning on Jalen Johnson. Maybe they give Onyeka Okongwu a little bit more responsibility. I don't know how to feel about AJ Griffin. I feel like he could get buried pretty quickly, but I just have faith. Like, this is a team that has real talent. Yeah. And you've given them one of the best head coaches in the league. And I think that you could have a material bump from that, to where it's, do they win like maybe they only win 46 or 47 games, but that's going to be enough to put him right there. The other two names that I'm like really considered, and I considered so many. I thought about Eric Spoelstra. I just wonder if the Heat are going to win enough regular season games. But even if they don't technically, like if they win 44, 45, 46 games, the fact that they just lost two of their top 6 rotation members in the playoffs, or if you want to say, well, if Hero was healthy, so 2 of their top 7, and if they're better somehow in the regular season this year, that's good. I think he's the best coach in the league, so he deserves a mention there. And I didn't know what to do with this, because I think the hype surrounding this team might just be ahead of where they view themselves. Mark Daigneault deserves to be here. If the Thunder kind of just, even if they're only rack up as many wins, if you do that in the West and you're getting like real development from your players, that ends up being a big deal. But there's not an order that you could, like, I even have like, I think some of the teams where it's like, oh, Michael Malone, the Nuggets are just going to be so good. Would anyone vote for him? Frank Vogel, how much credit does he actually get for what happens with the Suns? I suppose if they're a really good defensive team. Ty Lue, if the Clippers stay healthy. Chris Finch, if the Timberwolves turn it around. What if the Spurs are just better with Wemby and Pop sneaks in there again? The Celtics will win a bunch of regular season games, so Joe Mazzulla will be in there. And then there's kind of these two coaches. What if they're kind of remedying flawed situations? Darko Rajakovic in Toronto, and then Nick Nurse, the former Raptors coach in Philly. And that's not even like my entire list. So like, I don't know who you ended up with, but there's like Jamal Mosley, if the Magic make the turn, and even the Jazz, if they're better than expected again with Will Hardy.
So you picked Snyder. That was your pick. I think I didn't have him second after my number 1 pick, but I think he probably should be, because the case is so easy, right? Like, he will be credited with the Hawks playing differently on offense, and that's what everybody's complaint has been, or among the main complaints. And it's just so easy to draw a line directly from him to like what got better about the Hawks. And he does, and on that same idea, like Adrian Griffin, just anytime there's a new coach taking over a team that's already good, I think that has like a huge potential to just win the guy the award. My pick though is Joe Mazzulla, and it's not because I think he's the best coach in the league. I think the Celtics, I picked them for the highest win total. I think there are some challenges, I guess, to like sort of figure out how to play a lot differently with Porzingis and Holiday now, instead of the like 4 rotation guys they got rid of. I think it'll just come down to like, he was, I think, mostly like, I don't know, not maligned, but like he caught a lot of heat for how he, didn't use timeouts, and the Celtics maybe underachieved last year. I think with a training camp, which he didn't really get last season, and with a team that's just set to win a lot, it'll be pretty easy to credit him. So that's more like who I think the pick will be, maybe more so than I think who'll deserve it. I had Daigneault there. I just don't think OKC's going to win enough games for him to have a real chance. And then Taylor Jenkins is the other one. I think
big narrative boost for him if they're just so good without John, then John comes back and they're just as good or better.
That's it. That is exactly the argument, is that we got to credit somebody. Let's credit the coach that overcame the loss of a superstar. Not to say he's not a good coach, but I just think it's all narrative, it seems like, for this as much as any other award. So
what if the Cavs finish with the 1 seed, JB Bickerstaff, or the 2 seed in these?
I couldn't get there because I just actually don't think he's like a top half coach, just objectively. But yeah, we love the Cavs, and they're going to win 50 whatever. So he's got to be in there too. Should we quickly go through our all NBA teams? We've probably spoiled most of them.
Yeah, I think that could be more of a quick hitting exercise. Okay. So,
all right.
You want to start off with your first team?
Yeah. So my first team is Jokic, Luka, Joel Embiid, SGA, and Giannis. And they're positionless now, by the way, much to rejoice about.
Yes. And also we had to, I don't know how proud of this we should be, but we had to figure out whether all defense was still positionless because neither Grant or I knew for sure. As far as we know, it is positionless. So when we get to all defense, that'll be why. My first team, it's the same as my top 5, my MVP ballot: Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Devin Booker, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Nikola Jokic.
Okay. Give me your second team.
My second team is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Trae Young, Jayson Tatum, Joel Embiid, and this is proven tough. I didn't think I was going to go there, but I think I might go there anyway. Do I do it? Do I do it?
Do it.
Do I do it?
The Kings will love you. Who'd you say?
Leonard.
Okay.
Leonard.
Oh, wow. You did. That is not what I thought you were going to do. Okay.
I have the guys that I was worried about them playing. There are people that I left off entirely because I just don't trust them to reach the game's threshold, which is why I kind of feel like an a-hole picking Kawhi, but he also came back and there are like no limitations after his knee procedure. So you know what? I'm going to be a little optimistic.
Yeah. So I don't want you to, well, so do you have Durant as a third teamer? So you went with Kawhi as the injury risk guy that you're throwing on all NBA and not KD? Or do you have KD on your third team?
We will get to that one.
Okay. All right. My second team, I think we have quite a bit of overlap so far, but my second team is Tatum, Booker, Curry, all of whom you had on either first or second. I have De'Aaron Fox as a second team, and I also have Tyrese Haliburton as a second team.
So who was your first team?
Jokic, Luka, Embiid, SGA, and Giannis.
I didn't hear Embiid. I was like, so he didn't even put Embiid on second team?
No, I got him on first team. Yeah, Fox and Haliburton feel like could be a year early for both, but I mean, Fox made third team last year, so it's not crazy. And Haliburton, I think, had a chance had he not missed a decent amount of time. So there we go. Why don't you give me your third team here, since we almost spoiled it already.
Dude, I don't know. So I have De'Aaron Fox on my third team. I think he'll make it again this year. I have Damian Lillard on my third team. I know he's on a new team, but he just turned in the best season of his career. And now it should get easier for him on offense, I think. So he's there. I have Evan Mobley on my third team, going to lean into the Evan Mobley stuff. And then I considered putting 3 Cavaliers on this list of Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I don't know if that's actually ever happened before, though.
I don't think so.
I went with Donovan Mitchell. I don't feel great about it and did not go with Darius Garland there. And then I'm rounding it out, and this is a games played risk. I went with LeBron.
Wow.
I also considered Anthony Edwards, Pascal Siakam. I mentioned Darius Garland, Anthony Davis, and Tyrese Haliburton were my toughest exclusions here.
Okay. We're pretty close because I also have Mitchell and Mobley on my third team. I have Lillard. And then the last 2 on my third team are Trae Young, who you had second team. So we had some overlap there. And I have Anthony Edwards making third team.
The Anthony Edwards one was, I feel bad about it.
I'm sorry.
If I wasn't inclined to if I wasn't all in on the Evan Mobley experience and how good I think he's going to be, that's the spot that I probably should consider futzing around with. But you didn't have Dame on any of your teams.
I did. I have Dame on third team.
Third.
So my third team is Lillard, Mitchell, Mobley, Trae, and Edwards.
Yeah. So who did we have? So you have.
I had Haliburton. I don't think you have Haliburton.
I think honestly, people are underestimating how much Indiana is still rebuilding, and there might be some.
I'm probably one of them. So wait, you must have had someone that I didn't. You had LeBron. I didn't have LeBron.
Yeah, and it's like I should have left him. Did you just are you supposed to leave off AD, Durant? And I know that's inconsistent logic, but we haven't played the games yet, and so if I'm gonna bet on any one of the 4 playing in enough games, I think it will be LeBron, but I think Kawhi of the 4 still just has the highest single season ceiling.
Interesting.
Of Durant, AD, LeBron.
Yeah, I just punted because my first 4 omissions: KD, Kawhi, LeBron, AD. Those were the cuts I felt bad about. Just because if they do play, of course they're going to belong. Or I think probably
not having Jimmy too. I feel like I'm going to end up. Well, not I'll end up regretting, but that could look egregious. Where it's the safe route to go with this, to be honest, would have been let me take off Kawhi and LeBron, and I'm going to put in Anthony Edwards and Jimmy Butler is probably what I would have done. But hey, it's preseason. Do you want to take us through your first team all defense?
Sure. I was going to say though, if the games played were not a question, isn't Zion almost like a lock for all NBA at some just because
I
of
just can't.
the
He was
numbers he
another one where
puts
it's just
up.
like, do we trust the games played at this
No, of course
point? So,
not.
and I know, look, it's counterintuitive to. I mean, LeBron's not too counterintuitive. I know it's been a minute, but it's LeBron.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with LeBron on there. I'm trying to think. We've mentioned a million guys. Jalen Brunson thought about it. Sabonis thought about it. Bam thought about it. I think that's it. Jamal
Jalen
Murray thought
Suggs
about it.
thought about it.
Jalen Williams. Did I not mention he made first team? All right, all defense. So we spoiled a lot of this in DPOY, but so I went with Mobley, Draymond, Jaren Jackson, OG, and I put Wembanyama on the first team after we talked about him blocking 5 shots a game.
Wait, did you actually?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I did it. I did it.
All right, I was not brave enough to do that. I did. My first team is Giannis, Draymond, Jaren Jackson Jr., Evan Mobley, and Bam Adebayo.
Okay. I took Bam off. He was the casualty for Wemby. But look, if you're saying it's never been done, like no rookies ever made first team, then maybe I would have had some hesitation. But
but it's only it's just Hakeem and David Robinson and Kareem. It's just like, yeah.
How hard can it be? Olajuwon? You say Olajuwon? Yeah. So
Tim Duncan did it? Oh, he never even won a defensive player of the year. It must be easy.
Easy. Yeah, it's not unprecedented. Just like the best guys ever did it. So of course Wembanyama is going to do it. Second team, who do you got?
I think we're going to have, we might have some differentiation here. I have OG Anunoby, who you have on your first team, right?
Yep.
I also have Jaden McDaniels, Herb Jones, Nick Claxton, and Derek White. That might be a risk this year with Jrue Holiday there, but I still think he was their best, he was their best defender last year, period, actually. And he has a chance to do that again.
Yeah, I don't love my second team nearly as much as my first. So I have Claxton, who I think you had. I have Giannis. I have these last three so it could be like anybody. So my last three are Alex Caruso, probably not going to play enough, but I put him there. Walker Kessler, a little bit of a hot take. And Jrue Holiday, just because, and it could be Derek White for sure. But I don't know. Jrue Holiday is a great defender, so I wanted to put him there. The other thing is I have two guards there. It's possible that just 10 bigs make all defense if we're not doing
I think so. I was actually going to get into that. So I also considered Jrue Holiday and Alex Caruso. But it's just between Embiid, Brook Lopez, and Anthony Davis, who are also on my considerations, if all those guys, and I'm not saying I didn't leave Embiid. Embiid and Anthony Davis, I left off a little. Anthony Davis, I left off strictly because of the appearances thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of ditto with Embiid. But there's a very much just those three guys could just, you could insert them there. I also, the other names that I had considered, Marcus Smart and Jimmy Butler and Mikal Bridges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have Bridges. I thought about Aaron Gordon. I feel like maybe we'll start to see a groundswell of this guy is.
What about Peyton Watson?
Yeah, well, too bad. Yeah, Peyton Watson's going to cannibalize all those minutes. Tari Eason is kind of my way out of left field. Just
they just might get Reggie Bullock to replace him. Isn't that what's
all I know is he was 90th percentile or better among forwards in block rate, steal rate, offensive rebound rate. Not that that's defense and something else. And he had more recovered more loose balls than anyone in the league last year, despite not playing a ton of minutes. So I don't know.
By the way, neither of us mentioned Dylan Brooks.
No, I did. Yeah. So
no,
correct.
But also,
Brook Lopez. If we're gonna go a Brook of any kind, Brook Lopez deserves mention there.
Do you actually want to know talk about inconsistent logic? And I only just thought of this. Having Kawhi second team All NBA and not making all defense team, what type of season did he have on that? I just don't think
that's not crazy.
Yeah, I think they'll do things to insulate him more when you look at they have Paul George as well. And he also even if he's taking on the toughest assignments, he's very just judicious in how much effort he is expending on defensive possessions now.
Yeah. And let's see, Bridges I had as a down ballot guy and Herb Jones. So we had a fair amount of overlap there. Jalen Williams, I should mention. Just kidding.
Lou Dort, I just feel like his role might be restricted a little bit this year when you look at the players coming in on the team.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine Chet getting some consideration if he blocks a bunch, we're not talking about a guy who's definitely going to make the team, but it's not crazy to imagine we're halfway through the year and he's, top 5 in blocks and gets a bunch of rebounds.
Here's one. If he gets elevated into the starting lineup by way of a James Harden trade, but D'Anthony Melton.
Yeah. I love Melton. God, that guy can guard. I really like him. Yeah, that's a good one. If he's going to be hurt by the positions, a lot of these guys are going to be hurt by the position thing. All right, all rookie, which is definitely positionless. We're sure.
Yes. I'm so mad that I had to leave off because we wrote about all rookies way back when, but now that we know a little bit more about their roles, I'm
Yeah.
so mad I had to leave someone off of
Oh,
all rookie
interesting.
entirely.
All right, I'll give you mine to start. I mean, Wemby, Scoot, Chet, 1, 2, 3, pretty easy.
Yeah, I don't have any of them on my first team.
Yeah, you're outside the box. After that, it's so ridiculous. I just went with both Thompsons, which is kind of lame, and it like feels like Brandon Miller should probably be first team. I mean, yeah, I don't have a great defense for it. I just love I love the athleticism. I love like the everything but the shooting about both of those guys. And I think Ausar in particular is going to play like a fair amount right away. It seems like, so I don't know. I'm sure there's no way both of them actually make it. I just didn't want to make a decision. So I put them both on first team.
Yeah. So my first team does not include either Thompson brother. I'm just not sure what Ausar's role on offense will look like. And I also don't know what Ahmed's role in general is going to look like, even if he exceeds it. Like, there's just so many veterans that are like the Rockets rotation is just so log jammy. But they both did make my second team, but this is not second team. This is first team. I have Wemby, Chet Holmgren, Scoot Henderson. I have Keontae George because I think his role is going to be huge in Utah. And then I have Bilal Coulibaly. That dude is going to play. I think he's raw, but I think he's going to have more of an offensive impact than we credit. And I think just sort of the tools that he'll be able to bring on defense, maybe it'll be a mess and it'll be chaos sprinkled in with some good stretches of highlight reels. But the opportunity that should have in Washington sold me.
Yeah. If he spends any time in the G League, which like under normal circumstances, he probably should, I will be very upset because there's no reason to not just turn him loose and just like don't care about what he does offensively. Just let him be a terror on defense and figure out the rest. Like no G League for him. Okay. Yeah, I like both of those picks. So no Miller on the first team for either of us, though, by the way.
No.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So Miller's on my second team. I also have Keontae George. Keontae George probably should be first team, but I'll leave him there. Coulibaly also on my second team. The last two I have are Cam Whitmore and Jarris Walker. And a lot of that's just kind of like by default because I wanted to put Taylor Hendricks just because I love him.
He's the one.
But
I didn't put him on mine. The Jazz aren't going to play him enough.
They're not going to. He's going to get G League minutes, which is like, I mean, guess.
Do you know who Tony Jones compared him to in our Jazz look ahead?
Who?
He thinks that he could be the next Jaren Jackson Jr.
What? Like, really? That level of defense?
Here's the thing. I don't think that's far off.
Well, the Jazz sure as hell don't agree because if that were the case, there's no chance you bury him in the G League.
Well, they weren't giving Jaren Jackson Jr.'s offensive agency has changed a lot over his career. And I think I struggled to see the ball skills from Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 years ago, I struggled to see the ball skills from Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah. Okay. So you left Hendricks off. Who are your who is your second team?
I have Ausar and Ahmed Thompson. Then I also have Brandon Miller on there. So we have overlap there. I have Chris Murray in Portland. He's supposed to be NBA ready. And it's why wouldn't Portland play him at the stage they're at? Is it because he helps them win games? Is that like why? I found it fascinating. I know they have Jeremy Grant, Matisse Thybulle, but like this is a team that he might need to be more of a pure 4 than Keegan who can log some wing minutes, but like Portland can find minutes for him. Like you don't need to play Jabari Walker over Chris Murray. I would argue Chris Murray is a little bit more important to your future at this point. I have a big ass gigantic blank spot in my final all rookie. And I think I'm going to default to Jarris Walker. I don't trust it, but it seems like there's going to be an opportunity there. Even if, Obi Toppin and maybe Jalen Smith plays some 4. He's predominantly used the backup 5, but they're going to use him a bunch. The defensive impact might be high. If they can carve out enough spacing, get him to do some stuff in the short roll. I think that's the right pick. What was weird is I did not consider, I wanted to pick Olivier Maxence Prosper after Kurt Henderson really got me higher on him, but I feel like it could work against him playing on a Mavericks team where if they give him too much too soon, it looks awful, or he just gets buried eventually on a team that has immediate aspirations. I did not even consider Anthony Black. No, I realized at the end of this.
I don't think that's wrong. I think
like Grady Dick was higher on my list than Anthony Black.
Yeah, well, Grady Dick didn't play a bunch in the Raptors last preseason. Opportunity. I mean, this is an opportunity award as much as anything, right? So that's why Walker. I don't love Jarris Walker, but he made my second team because I think Like the only guy in his way really is Obi Toppin, and I don't think Toppin's going to play 40 minutes a night. So Walker's going to get the reps. I'm trying to think of anyone else we omitted that deserves. I mean, this is the biggest crapshoot of all crapshoots. I mean,
Calvin Booth would like us to mention some of the players that he picked up. Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson. Those are guys that he probably expects to play and think are going to be generational talents. But
yeah, Koulibaly is going to be really interesting. I may regret him and Keontae George. I think I like your first team better than mine, but that's all right. I'm gonna.
I mean, you can make it. You can. You're allowed to build your first. No positions. Nothing.
Can I put Jalen Williams on all rookie? Is that allowed?
Retroactively,
is he gonna be the first player to ever sweep every major award? Yes or no?
Yeah, he'll get defensive player of the year,
executive
MVP,
of the year,
and most improved. Yeah,
best teammate. Yeah, just all of it. That's it, right? That's all I prepared. I hope you didn't expect me to go executive of the year because I haven't thought about it.
No, I mean, it feels like there's Joe Cronin.
Yeah.
There's Brad Stevens took a lot of risks, but he could wind up being the pick. Yeah. There's
Will Dawkins.
Will Dawkins, Michael Winger, whoever gets it in Washington. They might actually be my pick.
They definitely had they had the hard job that I think we both respect the most because it was overdue and it was the right thing, you know, let's tear it down. I'm trying to think. I mean,
what about the Rob Pelinka? I think a lot of people are going to like the body of work with the Lakers.
I mean, they didn't we liked all the contracts they signed, really. I mean, Rui is a little like 3 for 51 might be a little too much for him, but getting the no trade clause waived for D'Lo was that's just a good, smart move. The Reeves deal we love. Yeah, I think he's got to be in the conversation.
You know, this might make people uncomfortable, but there's like a chance, a non-zero chance it ends up being Nico Harrison, right?
You're going to have to talk to me about how that's, I mean, sure, it's non-zero, but why, like, what's the scenario?
Like unless Derek Lively and Olivier Maxence Prosper go bust immediately because they're playing so much or Kyrie Irving disappears halfway through the season, they had a really solid offseason. Like, if they're just better defensively than we expect while maintaining the level of offense, I'm not super high on the Mavericks, but there's just, I think it's a higher percentage chance he wins it than I would have predicted like before the offseason.
Yeah, I think definitely. And the Mavs were operating from like a pretty tough spot, right? Like, because you got Kyrie and you got to figure out what the number in years, the dollars in years need to be for this to be not completely insane. And I think they did about as, 3 and what, I don't remember the numbers, but they didn't go all the way out as far as they could have. So yeah, I think that's not, what
John
about
Horst too? Getting Dame.
That?
John Horst getting Dame.
Yeah. Taking the
he doesn't
big
have a moleskin notebook though, so I don't really think that helps. It's got to be Joe Cronin.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even mention James Jones pulling off the Bradley Beal, trading them. If the Suns just rip off like 59 victories, you don't think that he wins it?
Isn't that just the owner saying do whatever it takes, and then it's like, okay, I guess we'll trade everything? Like that's
no, but it was
the minimum guy.
It was more so Bradley Beal chose the Suns, and that enabled them to do. But you were able to get Bradley Beal for just like, what would that package objectively, if you just put it on the market, have gotten you?
I have no idea. I mean, like, because it was such a strange. Well, we got to credit him for the minimum signings, right? I think, or maybe we just credit the presence of Booker, Durant, and Beal for the minimum signings that the Suns made. Yeah, I think. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
do enough, right? Like maybe if they make another midseason trade, but like, I guess if they're the best team in the West or something, you just have to point to the breaking up the Jordan Poole stuff and getting Chris Paul would be. I guess Houston. I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm gonna disqualify them based off one very, very notable move alone. But they did do enough to improve the bottom line wins of their team with Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet, Reggie Bullock. I still don't understand why he picked Houston.
Didn't he get part of the biannual or something?
No,
so it's just the minimum.
It was just the minimum. I'll double check that now, but I assumed that he was going to get I thought they had their room exception, but
he should be on Milwaukee. If you're taking minimums, why is he not on the Bucks? That's crazy.
You know what I realized too? If Milwaukee could have brought back Wes Matthews, we could have Terry Stotts, Wes Matthews, Damian Lillard, Robin Lopez all back on the same team again.
Get Nick Batum on the phone.
Yeah, the Spotrac has him as a minimum.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good business. I don't know why you necessarily. I mean, maybe Houston's going to try to win 40 games. Maybe that's just what this is all about.
Yeah, they're not going to. I think that's it. I don't think Indy didn't do anything too drastic.
We like their offseason, but it's just
dude,
the Bruce Brown move, basically.
right. And then I'm like the Timberwolves didn't do anything. Like that would be a retroactive.
We
Like,
cannot give the Timberwolves a positive.
what about Zach Kleiman of Memphis for the Marcus Smart move? Did they do anything else enough? I mean, they signed Derrick Rose. It's not really like a big deal.
Nah, not enough
The
there.
Desmond Bane extension, though, if that ends up looking incredible.
Yeah. We're a ways down though. Like there's definitely 4 or 5 guys that clearly I think have a better shot at it than the guys we're talking about now.
Well, then that's enough stalling.
Yeah.
It is stat padding time. Grant, can you start us off?
All right. Dan, I would like you to tell me who had more double-double, or sorry, who has the most. I was going to do more double-doubles and I blew it. Dan, who has the most career 10 assist games? I'm going to give you 2 choices. Russ Westbrook or Rajon Rondo.
I'm going to say it has to be Russ Westbrook.
It is 403 to 336. Baron Davis or Ricky Rubio?
Ooh. I'm going to say Ricky Rubio.
You're close, but you're incorrect. Baron Davis, 193.
There's only 2 options.
Yeah. So you're going to be close on all of these. The right answer will never be worse than your second choice. All right. Trae Young or Kyle Lowry?
Trae Young.
It is Kyle Lowry. I feel like I used Lowry on all of these at some point.
He didn't go to Santa Clara. You know that, right?
So what's who?
Lowry didn't go to Santa Clara, right? You don't need to use him in every
He's
one.
just always like way higher up on these all-time lists than you think because he's been around forever. And he keeps making it in. Okay. More 10 assist games in their career. Nikola Jokic or Jerry West?
Jerry West.
That is correct. Not close. 183 to 147. Allen Iverson or Steph Curry?
Steph Curry.
That's right. 133 to 127. Dame or Larry Bird?
Ooh. Larry Bird.
It is Dame.
Damn it.
122 to 118.
You're trying to trick me.
I had to make it the first guy. I had 3 in a row or the second guy. So factor that into this last one. Is it going to be the first guy or the second guy? Dwayne Wade or Luka Doncic?
Dwayne Wade.
Incorrect. It is Luka. 104 to 90. That's all I got for that one.
We should go to this one because I have one that's similar.
Okay.
That dovetails with it nicely, insofar as people care about themes.
It's
a 4-prong. There's going to be 4 different questions that are along the same lines, but I split them up into there's 2 different ways that we're going to approach this.
All right.
So the first different way we're going to approach this is multiple choice, just like you did.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Which NBA player has more career games with at least 25 points and 10 assists? Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Allen Iverson, or Steve Nash?
I'm going to go. Ooh, I almost said one. I'm just going to say Luka.
That is incorrect. He is second. Allen Iverson is first.
That was my first guess, Dan. Damn it. All right.
You were going to say it, and I was going to be very impressed.
Yeah. Overthought it.
Which NBA player has more career games with at least 25 points and 10 assists? Kobe Bryant, Baron Davis, Michael Jordan, or Jason Kidd?
Michael Jordan.
That is correct. I didn't think you were going to get that one.
That's
he has
ballsy to
54.
put Jordan on there and have it be the right answer because that's always it can't be Jordan. That's too easy.
Now, this is where I think it gets harder, but I'm very interested to see how you do.
Okay.
Rank these NBA players by who has the most career games of at least 25 points and 10 assists.
Okay.
De'Aaron Fox, Jrue Holiday, Kyrie Irving, Kyle Lowry. And if anyone can't catch on, I try to just list them in alphabetical order so that there's a randomization, hopefully, to the answers. But
all right, I'm going to go Lowry 1, Kyrie 2. Who are my other 2 guys?
De'Aaron Fox and Jrue Holiday.
Fox, then Holiday.
Okay, so recap for me.
Lowry, Kyrie, Fox, Holiday.
You got a couple spots right, but that's incorrect. Jrue Holiday is 1 at
what?
31.
Oh, I had him last.
Kyrie Irving at 2, 30. De'Aaron Fox at 3, 25. And Kyle Lowry at 4, 24.
All right. So I got Lowry right at first, and then it all went to shit. Okay, that's a good one. Wow. Oh, no, I did not. Jrue was number 1. That's unbelievable.
Okay. Now, Same thing. Rank these NBA players by who has the most career games of at least 25 points and 10 assists. Giannis, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Ja Morant.
25 and 10. Giannis, Booker, Ja, and Durant. Oh, geez. Okay. Just said geez, by the way. You're causing me to use profanity.
Not say shucks.
Shit. Golly. I'm going to say, so it's Giannis, Booker, KD. I'll just say Ja 1. All these guys, how are they getting 10 assists, even though Ja's been in the league for like 10 minutes? I'll go Ja, Durant, Giannis, Booker.
You got Giannis and Booker right. So
Okay.
Kevin Durant is at 1 with 25.
Wow.
Giannis is at 2 with 24. So you actually got him wrong. I apologize.
So I got 1 out of 4 is what you're saying.
Ja Morant is at 3rd with 23. Devin Booker's 4th at 18.
So all I knew was that Booker was last on that list.
Yeah,
Good job. Good job by me.
Those were hard. I thought that was an interesting way of doing it.
That was hard. Okay. All right. So I have a which one doesn't belong for you. You're going to need to tell me, I'm going to list you 4 players, and you need to tell me who did not win Rookie of the Year.
Thank you for doing 4 and not 5, because 5 was so hard to cut up and they got cut off on the screen for socials. Thank you for doing 4.
It wasn't intentional, but you're very welcome. All right. Your first group. You need to tell me who did not win Rookie of the Year. Damian Lillard, Andrew Wiggins, Brandon Roy, Anthony Edwards. Who did not win Rookie of the Year?
Brandon Roy.
Anthony Edwards did not win Rookie of the Year. Can you remember who got it over Anthony Edwards? Bonus question.
LaMelo.
Correct. All right. Next group.
One.
Anthony Davis, Tyreek Evans, Chris Paul, Grant Hill. Who did not win Rookie of the Year?
Oh my God. Chris Paul.
Chris Paul did win Rookie of the Year. Anthony Davis did not win Rookie of the Year. Can you remember who won Rookie of the Year over Anthony Davis?
No.
It
wasn't Bradley Beal.
It's Dame.
Oh my, they were the same draft class.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That one threw me because that feels like they're different ages. But yeah, so Dame.
That's like recent history stuff that I should know.
I tried to keep most of these pretty recent. They're all like after 2000. So, all right. Who did not win Rookie of the Year? John Wall, Derrick Rose, Kevin Durant, Jason Kidd.
Who is it?
Jason Wall,
Kidd, Kevin Durant,
John Wall, and Derrick Rose. You know Derrick Rose won it, so you can roll him out.
I know John Wall won it too. So I'm going to say Jason Kidd.
Do you, Dan? Do you know that John Wall won it?
Did he not win?
He didn't win it. Blake Griffin got him, which was the weird one because Blake missed his whole first season. He kind of Ben Simmons'd it and was he won it as like a red shirt rookie.
I have to. Do you have another one of it?
I have 2 more.
Okay, I was about to say, if I go 0-4, we absolutely need to cut this up just to shame me.
So I've realized I kind of screwed this one up because one of the options is Blake Griffin, and I just told you he did win Rookie of the Year. So next 4, Blake Griffin, Scotty Barnes, LaMarcus Aldridge, Elton Brand. Who did not win Rookie of the Year?
I know Scotty won because people were mad about that.
And you know Blake won. So was it Aldridge or Elton Brand that did not win Rookie of the Year?
I'm going to say Aldridge.
You got it. Brandon Roy won it that year over Aldridge. Elton Brand was a tie. By the way, Jason Kidd and Grant Hill were also a tie. So I'm getting extra Rookies of the Year in here. All right, last one. Who did not win Rookie of the Year? Emeka Okafor, Dwight Howard, Steve Francis, or Mike Miller? We're reaching a little farther back on this one.
Dwight Howard, Mike Miller, Steve Francis, or Emeka Okafor? Okafor?
Incorrect. Okafor did win it over Dwight Howard, which is like, I look back at the numbers and Okafor was like, I think 14 and 10, and Dwight was like not quite that good. And I think Dwight was maybe even 3rd. I can't remember what the voting was that year, but that blew my mind because in my head, Dwight Howard was just a freak like immediately. But Nope.
Wow, 1 of 5. That might be our lowest hit rate of all time.
I think that's an indictment on me picking one that's just too hard. Because
No, I think that's an indictment on my knowledge of the history of
I didn't do
basketball.
much better on the other one. Okay, you got some for me. I have a couple others for you.
Yeah, so let's do this. I have 3 for you that fall into the same category.
Okay.
Which NBA player has made the most half court or deeper shots for their career?
Okay.
Denny Avdia, Daniel House Jr., LeBron James, or Kyle Lowry?
It is obviously Kyle Lowry because he always shoots those.
It is Denny Avdia with 3. Everyone else had 2.
Hey, respect though. I think it might be wrong. Lowry might be one of the guys that always just eats it and doesn't shoot those on purpose. Maybe I'm not thinking of the right guy. Good for Avdia. Way to get him up.
Which NBA player has made the most half court or deeper shots? Ray Allen, Jason Kidd, Zach Randolph, or Dwayne Wade?
I'm going to say Wade.
He is tied for second with Kidd with 4. Zach Randolph has 5. Ray Allen has 3. So it's Zebo.
5's a lot. Okay.
Which NBA player has made the most half court or deeper shots? Jordan Clarkson, Paul George, Kyrie Irving, or Kyle Kuzma?
This is just such a crapshoot. I keep picking the last guy you list, and it hasn't been right so far. So I'm going to say Kyle Kuzma just to stick with it and hope that I got you.
You are correct. It is Kyle Kuzma with 4. Paul George has 2. Clarkson and Kyrie have 1.
Sometimes you got to play the man. You can't play the game. I had to go with.
Honestly, I thought Zebo was going to be the one that you got because he was just kind of like, oh, Zebo in with those other guys.
Well, but that could be a red herring.
House in the first one because I was like, I can't include a bunch of stars and Denny Avdia because Grant's immediately going to go, oh, it's Denny Avdia.
The psychology of these games is really reaching new levels where we're trying to outsmart the guesser. Okay, do you want to go or you want to do a couple from me?
Let's do a couple from you.
All right, Dan, your life is on the line.
I don't want to do this one.
Opting out is not allowed. Life on the line. The shot must be made. Stephen Curry, left-handed free throw, or DeAndre Jordan, free throw? Do you want DeAndre Jordan?
Left-handed free throw. But it's not even close.
Well, I don't know. So basically DeAndre would be roughly a coin flip. So if you think Steph is making more than half of his lefty free throws, which is probably a safe bet, I think that's the correct answer.
Yeah, I think that's an easily correct answer.
Okay. Dan, your life is on the line. The shot must be made. A contested Giannis corner 3 or a doubly contested Dame logo 3.
Ooh. Doubly contested Dame logo 3.
That's the only answer, right? Especially, I should have said it was, the clock was running out too, and then you definitely go Dame.
Then it's Dame time.
All right. Let's see. I don't know how I credit this as a life on the line, but okay, whatever. Life on the line.
Why are you trying to kill me? It's just the question I
just trying to add some stakes. Okay, how about this? Your life's not on the line, but you are the lead executive of a fictitious NBA team, and you're putting together your coaching staff. Do you put Tom Thibodeau in charge of load management or Joe Mazzulla in charge of timeout usage? You must choose one.
I'm going to put... Oh, man. I'm going to put Joe Mazzulla in charge of timeout usage because that's something, given how early he is into his head coaching career, that you can learn. It's very clear how Tom Thibodeau is going to operate his teams after all these years.
You know what you're getting into with the first one. There's improvement possible in the Mazzulla. Okay, that's all my life on the lines for you. I have an over under that's really quick, but if you got some, I'll take them.
I have a couple more. Why don't we wrap up yours?
Okay, over under 8.5 25 point per game seasons for Victor Wembanyama. So will he have 9 of those? Or will he have 8 or fewer? And I will give you some context. There have been 11 players that have 9 or more, 25 point per game or more seasons. Okay. That list of those 11 is LeBron, KD, Kobe, Karl Malone, Michael Jordan, Jerry West, Allen Iverson, Shaq, Dominique Wilkins, Kareem, and Oscar Robertson. Does Wembanyama join that group as a guy with 9 plus 25 point per game seasons?
I'll take the over. I just feel like if you're going to go all in on Wemby, you got to go all in on Wemby.
I don't know what's bolder, you saying that or me putting him all defensive first team. Either way, we've really covered the bases of Wembanyama exuberance. So I think, what would I say? I think I'd go over too, or else why am I asking this question? I think I'd go over. It's like 25 isn't
Especially
what it
if,
used to
like,
be.
if he's ever just an okay 3-point shooter, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. He's like an easy basket factory too. Just if they, as he gets stronger, he's just there'll be so many more of those offensive rebounds where he just doesn't jump, but has the ball on top of everyone and just puts it in. Like you get 10 points a game on that stuff alone. So yeah. All right. We think Wemby's going to be good. That's a revelation. What do you got for me?
so here's an open-ended one.
Okay.
You can erase throughout NBA history one player's injury track record. Who are you going with?
Oh, it's open-ended. Holy shit. So the question really is who do I want to see play their full career that did not get a chance? Oh, okay. I think this may not be. I didn't maybe think about this enough and go back far enough. But what about Greg Oden? Because like number one pick over Durant, like as a prospect, arguably the best defensive big guy coming in a really long time, and just never got off the ground. I think that's the first thing that occurs to me. I'm trying to think who else. Maybe Derrick Rose. Wouldn't that have been fun? If we'd gotten a full. Like athletically, he probably would have deteriorated, and that would have been. But just give me the natural athletic decline instead of the ACL right away. Do you have anybody that comes to mind?
I had two. Grant Hill might go down as one of the greatest players of all time if he's never injured.
Yep.
And the other one, I know he ended up playing 8 seasons, but I just would have been fascinated. Dealt with a lot of lower body stuff. Yao Ming.
Yeah.
He never gets injured. Would have been someone I would have been curious to see his career. And unfortunately, I feel like we might be tracking in this direction with Zion, maybe even Kawhi too.
Yeah. What about, going way back, Bill Walton was just like his back was ruined pretty early, and he was an unbelievable offensive player. He was just good at everything, and then just couldn't stay healthy. There's got to be some other ones. Yeah, that's a good question. I bet I'd be curious. Discord, everybody in Discord, if you're still listening for some reason, throw some in there. Brandon Roy's another one, but he's not on the level of most of the guys we mentioned.
So 4 NBA players, all in the prime of their ball handling skill set. One of their handles has to go. So you're getting rid of one of them. It's erased from the NBA lexicon.
Okay.
Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, Allen Iverson, Chris Paul.
So is this like a question of what? So let's say, I'm not saying I'm going to do this. Say I take away Chris Paul's handle. Is it like a question of how good is he still, or like what happens to him, or what happens to the NBA as it has evolved? Like, what am I doing here? I know this isn't the point of these quick hitter.
Are you just trying to buy yourself time?
No, I just don't understand what's happening. You're taking away somebody's handle.
So here's okay. Who would be? We could frame it this way. I'll rephrase it. Who would be the best player from these 4 if you took away their handles? Steph Curry, Allen Iverson, Chris Paul, or Kyrie Irving?
It's got to be Steph, just because he still has a premium skill left. I think if he can't dribble at all, basically, he can still be the best off-ball shooting threat that the world has ever known. So I think I wouldn't want to do this, but I think I got to take it from him.
I probably agree with you, given the phrasing of that question, that I was not planning on framing it as.
You didn't think you're going to be forced to, in a quick hitter situation, explain.
You've never done the one of these has to go. It's Steph Curry's, Chris Paul's, Allen Iverson's, or Kyrie Irving's handles.
Well, it's like you're asking, like, okay, you have to chop off the hand of one NBA player. Like what? Like what? I don't know. Hey, nobody. I don't want to take their handles away.
I think so. I have one more for you before we get into the guess that players that we have, and I think I just lost it. So I might have 0 for you. I
don't have any guess that players for you today.
That's fine, because those embarrass me. Oh, here we are. And this is inspired by something I saw on Twitter. All 6 of these NBA players are in their prime. Who is coming off the bench?
Okay.
Anthony Davis, Paul George, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Nikola Jokic, or Derrick Rose?
Ooh. My first thought was Paul George, because you could sort of use him for anything if you wanted to. Okay, give me the names again, because Jokic is starting, AD is starting.
Paul George, James Harden, Kyrie, Derrick Rose.
Oh, you know what? I think we're too small if we have Kyrie and Derrick Rose in the backcourt together. So I'm going to bring I'm going to bring in their primes. You know what? I'm going to put Kyrie on the bench. I changed my mind. I changed my mind. We have to pick one of the small guards. So Kyrie's on the bench. So my lineup is Rose, George, Jokic, AD, and I forget the fifth guy.
Do you have your awards still pulled up so we could do quick fire those just in case?
Yeah.
Quick fire NBA 2023, 2024 awards picks. Coach of the year.
My coach of the year is Joe Mazzulla.
I'm going with Quinn Snyder in Atlanta. Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year is Wemby. Easy.
Wemby as well. Sixth man of the year.
You made me pick one, so I'm going to go Derek White over Jrue Holiday.
I'm going to go with Derek White over the field, not Jrue Holiday. Most improved player.
The one and only Jalen Williams.
Going with Evan Mobley. Defensive player of the year.
I'm going with Evan Mobley for this one.
I'm also going with Evan Mobley for this one. Finally, who wins MVP?
It's boring, but it's Jokic. I just feel that's the safest pick.
It's Jokic for me as well. Okay, let me bring up Rubik's Gals, guess that players. We'll do only a couple because we've gone for so long today, and we'll have plenty in the bank if we do that. So I am looking at many of these for the first time, so this will be interesting. All right. Grant, are you ready?
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay, clue number 1. I am the only player to have led NCAA Division I in rebounding for 3 consecutive years. Clue number 2. I was drafted 47th overall by the Utah Jazz and led all rookies in double-doubles that year with 6. Clue number 3. I have played for 5 NBA teams: the Jazz, Team X, the Nuggets, Nets, and 76ers. But I've only ever been traded once.
Why do you do Team X? What is Team X supposed to signal to me?
It was too easy of a giveaway. That's why it's blank.
Oh, what? Okay. All right. Got any more?
Yeah, clue number 4. I've made the conference finals 3 times with the Jazz, Team X, and the Nuggets, losing once to Tim Duncan and twice to LeBron.
The Jazz.
I'm going to give you Team X on this one.
Okay.
I have 4.
Oh, Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap.
Oh, it is Paul Millsap. Nice job.
God, I almost had it at the rebounding one because I weirdly remembered that. Okay.
Whew. The other clues were I have 4 consecutive All-Star selections, all for Team X. And then you would have gotten it if I included Team X. Atlanta Hawks went unbeaten for an entire month, and their starting 5 was named Conference Player of the Month.
Yeah, that would have done it. Okay. Well, we got there.
That was a good one. Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Clue number 1. I have led the league in 3-point percentage once, and I hold the NBA single season record for free throw percentage, 98.1%. Nobody else has even made 96% of their free throws in a season.
Is this Abdul Rauf?
No, it's not. So, clue number 2. Surprisingly, I don't have the longest streak of made free throws without a miss. I'm second on the list with 87 made free throws. The record is 97.
Oh, is this Jose Calderon?
Correct. Nice job. This one looks like a quick one. So let's do one more. You up for it?
I'm hot right now. Let's go.
From Rubik's Gal on Discord, random trivia question. Only 14 players have won greater than 70% of their regular season games that they have played in, minimum of 500 games played. They have all played for one of these 3 dynasties, except one guy. The Showtime Lakers, Magic Johnson and Michael Cooper. 2, the Bill Russell era Celtics had Casey Jones, Tommy Heinsohn, Bill Russell, Sam Jones, Frank Ramsey, Jim Luskatoff. And 3, the Tim Duncan era Spurs had Manu, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard, and Danny Green. Who is the only player with a career win percentage greater than 70 who hasn't played for the Duncan era Spurs, the Showtime Lakers, or the Bill Russell Celtics?
Holy cow. That's impossible. So won a ton of games, but was never in any of those dynasties.
I'll give you 2 more clues that aren't in there, but they're in the answer. Played in 897 career games.
Okay.
Winning percentage of 73.6%.
Wow.
I will also give you another clue because I feel like this is way too hard, but I love it. The franchise that he was on is one of those 3 franchises that we just went through: Lakers, Spurs, or Celtics.
Okay. So who played a ton of games? Probably for like one of the Laker three-peat seasons. Is it? Oh God. Is it Derek Fisher? Is it Derek Fisher?
No.
Okay.
If I told you he was a Celtic.
Just won a ton of games as a Celtic, but wasn't in any of those. Well, is it Bird?
Yeah, it's Bird.
Okay. Yeah. The games was tough because I didn't know how many he was hurt.
I'm actually surprised he had that many games, to be honest.
Yeah, that was what I wasn't. I mean, it had to be him if it was going to be a Celtic, I guess, unless like Antoine Walker snuck in there somehow. No. Okay. Ooh, those were good ones. Keep them coming.
Thank you again, Ruby Scow. We have a bunch more from her that we will get to as time goes on.
Yeah.
Grant, I hope everyone enjoys 2-hour podcasts.
Hey, this is getting down to the end of the preseason content, so pretty soon we'll just have more topical stuff to do. But everyone who made it this far, thank you for doing so. Thank all of you in advance for stuffing the ballot box for every award so Jalen Williams wins them all. I'm going to stop being rational about any of this. Not that I ever started.
I just think he walks on water is the best justification I've ever heard.
He's more God than man. So thanks again. If you have not already rated, reviewed, subscribed, followed, please do all that stuff. The written reviews, as Dan said, really help us out. Make sure you tell your friends, tell your enemies. Check out our merch. You can get the YouTube. You can get the link to that, and basically everything else we ask you to do is in the YouTube and podcast descriptions. The links are all there. And get ready for the season. We're getting close. That's going to be exciting. So continue to stick with us as we get into in-season content. We close, as always, with a shout out to the one and only Frank Ntilikina and an apology to Jared Allen.